It was a depressing year for Fort Collins in the rankings of 2022 to 2023. We fell out of the top 50 best places to live, falling all the way to number 54. But no more. We are back, baby. We are in the top 25, something that hopefully CSU football and basketball can say sooner rather than later. But as far as the city goes, we are a blue chip city. Coming in at number 23 on the 2023-2024 U.S. News Best Places to Live list, where they look at 150 metros. It is amazing to be back on top, back in the top of that list. Now, my name is Patrick Soukup. This is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel, where you come to learn everything there is to know about Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, eating, sleeping, playing, working, and top places to live. Now, we are licensed real estate agents, so if you're considering buying, selling, or investing here in Northern Colorado, give me and my team a call, text, or email. We'd be happy to assist. We work with so many people across the country, state, and world even, moving to Northern Colorado, and we'd be happy to help you. Now, without any further delay, let's jump into today's list, and also that Fort Collins does it again. Let's go. So what changed between 2022-23 and 23-24 rankings? Well, our overall score went from 6.3 to 6.5. Our quality of life stayed the same, 7.2 to 7.2. Now, that's really where we're going to come in strong, is our quality of life. That's where we are just going to continue to rank very well, and which helps us on this list. It used to be very much on the value side of things. But last year, we were at 5.5, and this year, we're back up to 5.9. That could be for a lot of different reasons, and we'll get into how these rankings and scores are put together. But how does the rest of the state of the rest of the state of Colorado look? Well, Boulder comes in number 4, Colorado Springs number 9, and Denver, you are flirting with being out of the top 100, coming in at number 99. A far fall from grace of last year's 55th ranking, and this year all the way down to number 99. A big driving component of that is value, coming in at a score of 4.9. Now, Boulder doesn't have necessarily the best value by any means, because it's extremely expensive to live there. But what they do have is a phenomenal quality of life, coming in with a 7.7 score. Colorado Springs, quality of life, value, different things. Definitely could see that coming in more so, but at number 9, top 10. So great job, Colorado Springs. Now, who else is in the top 10? Let's see. Coming in at number 1, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go Packers, I guess. Number 2, Huntsville, Alabama. Number 3, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. 4 is Boulder, Colorado, our neighbor to the southwest. Number 5, Sarasota, Florida. 6, Naples, Florida. Portland, Maine coming in at number 7. Charlotte, North Carolina, 8. Colorado Springs, number 9. And Fayetteville, Arkansas, number 10. So that is your rounding out of the top 10 best places to live for the 2023-2024 list, composed by U.S. News. Now, how do they develop this list, and how do they come up with these rankings? Let's dive into some of those areas of their scoring methodology. So there's 4 main weighted components, and the largest weighted component is quality of life, which comprises 36% of the scoring. Now, within quality of life, they have different categories, which are crime rates, 25%. They're looking at violent murder and property crimes per 100,000 people. Quality of education, 19%. They're looking at U.S. high school rankings. Well-being, 19%. There's an index that they look at the well-being of that area. Commuter index, 16%. How long and how far are people's commutes coming? Now, we'll jump into some of the Fort Collins statistics, because really what it is more is a Larimer County statistics that they're looking at. So with their congratulations is in order for Loveland and Johnstown and north to us, Wellington. But regardless, they're suggesting that our commute is around 24 minutes. So a commuter score. Air quality index comprises 7%, which actually Northern Colorado does not do that well on. And it's something that we are very intentionally addressing, whether that be oil and gas regulations or a carbon emission neutral by 2050 with tax dollars going towards supporting that modes of transportation. We are definitely addressing that head on. And finally, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and that's only comprised of 5%. We don't really have too many natural disasters here, so definitely probably score very well on that for Fort Collins. Value index is next, comprised of 23% of the weight. And the value index is really going to get down to housing cost and really what it's going to cost you to live here, your cost of living, the cost of items, gasoline, food, insurance, things of that nature. So 50% of the value is going to be ranked on housing affordability, so a comparison of salary versus the median sales price, and then also the cost of living there, the consumer price index of goods and services that someone's going to have to pay to live there. Desirability index at 22% weighted. Now, this is something that they took 3,500 people, and 65% of that is taken by taking 3,500 people, which are given these 150 metros, and asked, where would you like to live on this index? So, relatively not great numbers to use to rank that, and it is a little bit less weighted as far as 22% of the overall score. But a survey of 3,500 people comprised 65% of that weight. Net migration, how many people are moving in versus moving out? Fort Collins generally has about a 1.5% on average population growth. Now, as we get bigger, we're going to see that kind of decline to 1.3 to 1.2% type deal. But we are seeing still more people moving in than moving out. Weather temperateness comprises 10% of that desirability score, which is a calculation of how many days are above 32 degrees and below 90 degrees. So I think we actually probably scored pretty well on that, because generally speaking, yeah, we're going to have some dog days of summer where we're going to see upper 90s and things of that nature. And we're going to have some really cold times during January and February and December. But overall, we're going to stick in between that probably during our winters, 40 to 50 degree range, and fall 60, summers, sub 90. So definitely I think you could score pretty well on that. Establishments to population ratio. How many grocery stores, restaurants, liquor stores, watering holes to 100,000 people. So Fort Collins, and I never have found this, but when I was going up through school, it was always suggested that we had the most restaurants per capita in the United States. Like I said, I've never found that, and I can't support that, but that was just like what was said when we were kids going through school. So I would have to assume that we do decently well on the population to establishments ratio. And rounding out our weighted factors is our job market index, comprised of 19% of the weighted scores. And 50% of that is going to be our unemployment rate, and 50% of that is going to be our average salary. Now, these are two things that when you look at the Fort Collins score, our unemployment rate is actually at 7.1%, which leads me to believe, again, this is more Larimer County than it is Fort Collins. But our average salary is suggested to be around $60,000. But according to HUD, the median income for a family of 4 is about $110,000. So there's definitely some discrepancies in where people pull numbers. Now, they try to get as much information similar across the board and then kind of siphon it down to where they can compare these cities across the United States and then spit out a ranking score. Now, the way they do this is way beyond my, there's a Z-score, statistical analysis, things of that nature. But what I can say is overall, looking at this, it does seem that they're looking at Larimer County, not necessarily Fort Collins, because our population per the U.S. News in Fort Collins is 350,000 people, which is more, closely related to Larimer County, versus population in Fort Collins is about 180,000 people. Our median sales price, U.S. News is suggesting $596,000, where that's pretty close to Fort Collins. Median sales price could be anywhere between $610,000 to $625,000 right now, but it has stagnated over the last year, which is where we probably could see a little bit of this value score increase, because our median sales price of our houses have kind of stagnated, stayed the same, whereas our average salaries have increased. Poudre School Districts just improved a 10% increase to teachers' pay across the Poudre School District. So we're seeing these increases in pay across the board, but really a stagnation of our housing price. So that's probably where we saw a big value score increase. Again, we're addressing the air quality index head on. Affordability is being addressed through the land use code, which the city of Fort Collins is kind of seeing how they're going to address that right now. Whether that is, there's a direct correlation of density to affordability will be seen, but there's definitely a conversation where people don't think that you can, one of my favorite comments by the mayor of Fort Collins was, I don't necessarily think we can regulate ourselves to affordability, but we could deregulate ourselves to affordability. And I think that's ultimately what this land use code is trying to do, is allow better and more uses for people's current codes or current properties. And so we will see over time, but as we see population increases, net migration increases, it'll still be a very desirable place to live. Demand, housing prices will probably remain really pretty steady unless something dramatic happens. So overall, Fort Collins coming in at number 23 is super exciting, and we will always watch this list, and we hope to not follow Denver's suit of almost falling out of the top 100 and seeing what Boulder, even with an extremely expensive housing market, is doing because of the quality of life. And Fort Collins, city of Fort Collins, is definitely focusing on that. Like, they're trying to build this utopia, this paradise for people to live, even if it comes at the expense of increased housing prices. But I also think City of Fort Collins, Downtown Development Authority, different areas are trying to address affordability head on, and coming up with like 140 East Oak, which is an affordable housing complex downtown for mid-level managers, as far as restaurant managers, waitresses, people who are working downtown so that they can continue to walk and things of that nature. And again, with our air quality index, we were trying to do our modes of transportation, the max transit, what just got passed on the Elizabeth corridor, a $90 million project, which $10 million has been granted by the federal government to allow that to be a max rapid transit system, which will probably be built over the next 3 to 5 years. E-bikes, Ubers, bus route systems, things of that nature that we are trying to address head on. But Fort Collins continues to be a great place to live and ranks in the top 25, a blue chipper. Now let's go CSU football and basketball follow suit, track and volleyball, women's basketball. You know, you guys doing your thing. I love to watch it. But that being said, I appreciate you guys watching this video. And if you have any questions specifically to the rankings or where Fort Collins is, or any specific questions among those kind of criteria that we discussed earlier, definitely feel free to reach out. Congratulations to Boulder, Colorado Springs, and also, again, this ranking for Fort Collins was really Loveland, Johnstown, Wellington, parts of Windsor, Timnath, Johnstown, Estes Park. So congratulations to all of those cities who really contribute to such a great place to live, which is Northern Colorado. Until next time, guys, take care.